Hello, it's Larry here. I'm adding this new section to the blog that I haven't had before, and it is kind of generally and loosely titled, Inspired Living, also Living on Planet Larry. So, just a bit of background. As I'm traveling and meeting people from different parts of the world, meeting a couple from Australia, three guys from South Africa sitting on a beer corner in Hanoi, a young friend from Germany I meet in Bali, Natasha, an archaeologist that I meet in Costa Rica, and her friend Julie. We have these coolest conversations. And a lot of the conversations, one of the guys from South Africa told me what he loves about traveling. Every time you meet somebody, they're very open in sharing what they're doing and what they're living, and everybody's looking for something. So, what are they looking for? Uh, I traveled for basically 10 months, a couple of years after mom and dad died. And I met a number of people that are location independent. And what that means is that they've created a business that allows them to live anywhere in the world, generate income, and do whatever they want to do. Now, rarely did I meet anybody that was location independent that actually felt happy or fulfilled. And what it felt like is they took the work ethic and the busyness and have to be busy and productive, and they've translated that to the business that they have. And so I meet people that make $20,000 a month living in Chiang Mai, where you can probably live on $600 or $700 a month. And I didn't ever get a sense of fulfillment, purpose, achievement, satisfaction. But I did get a sense of like, oh my God, look at how much money I'm making. So the question that often comes up, and this has come up a lot in my regular work, we have the wealthiest country in the world. We spend $40 billion a year on personal storage expenses to keep our stuff. Wayne Dyer once referred to us as the culture as a psychosis of more, that we feel like we're constantly on this pursuit of getting more. And so, when I read about essentialism, the whole theory behind essentialism is the consciousness of having less but better. And the comment that I've used from that book many times, and I think it's a quote that can be traced to Jim, I can't remember his last name, the author from the Seattle. If you're not disciplined in the pursuit of the essential, you'll be undisciplined in the pursuit of more. That was Jim Collins. And so, what's essential? Ariana Huffington had an experience, a health experience, kind of shifted her world because before her experience, she said we define success in this culture generally by money and power. And she said, so by either of those definitions, I would have been considered a successful person. But she was so exhausted, she passed out at her desk and she fell forward and she hit her desk so hard that if I understood correctly, she literally fractured the orbital bone around her eye. And she woke up sometime later laying in a pool of her blood on her own desk. And so that's what her question was. Okay, if money and power are successful, then what definition of success includes waking up so exhausted that you're lying in a pool of blood on your own desk? And so that was kind of the catalyst behind her book, Thrive, which is instead of just the two metrics, the third metric, which is purposefulness, well-being, kind of some kind of a relationship with the divine. So when I talk about Planet Larry, I've been really blessed over my life to meet interesting people. I grew up on the farm, and somehow I grew up with this kind of innate sense of common sense. Is it practical? How can I use it? I met a psychologist from Brazil one time, Josue, and he was sharing with me that he is highly recognized in his field of study, and he would go and speak to places, but he wasn't really having a great interaction with people. And all of a sudden, it kind of dawned on him. He used different language, but the language was all of a sudden it dawned on him one day that the reason he wasn't relating to them was he was being very arrogant and egotistical. And the way he was sharing his information was like standing up in front of this room full of people saying, look at me. Look at how great I am. Look at how much I know. And so his shift from that was then how do I be a genuine, authentic, connected human being? When I was in Texas, I took a winter off and I was caretaking a ranch for cutting horses. And I got to I was invited as a guest to go through a program called the Sandler Sales Management System. And what the Sandler system included, no closes, meaning you don't go for more and more manipulative closes to get people to buy something. But what you do is you find out what their needs are, and you identify whether or not what you have matches their needs. And if you communicate with them so well, then they close themselves. And the comment that they made was, if you walk into a room, let's say you're going into a conference room in a hotel, and in the front of the room there are two chairs sitting side by side. And one chair has a person with a name tag on that says salesperson, and the other chair has a person with a name tag on that says human being. Who are you going to talk to? So, just a quick follow-up on that. When I got involved with professional speaking and wanted to become more of a professional speaker, I went to a number of speaking events, and I found a very difficult time relating to people that I met because I was interested in impact. How do you package a message? How do you connect with people? How do you relate to people? What do you say, and how do you say it in a way that makes a difference? And I had more people coming up and asking me about how much money you've ever made, what's the most you've ever been paid for a presentation. And it was kind of this jockeying for, hey, I'm a really successful speaker. And I was so green at that time in my life for speaking that I did realize that if I try to follow them and do what they're doing, I'm going to pick up some bad habits I'm going to heal from. So rather than doing that, when I walked away, I thought, okay, the thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be as genuine and authentic and be myself in whatever capacity. So if I'm talking to 1,500 people in a room, I want to be the same person. If I'm talking to you in a coffee shop in Bali, I want to be the same person. And so making that decision, then it set me on a journey of finding out, who is that really? And so another quick comment from Louise Hart, who wrote a book called The Winning Family. And she made a comment in that book about raising children, and one of the things that's really important to help them grow up to be successful in life is helping children learn, what do you believe? What's important to you? What do you believe, and how do you believe? And she said, you've got to be clear that that is separate from what other people have tried to convince you to believe. But for you personally, what do you believe? So those are some of the background ideas that when I travel and I meet people and they're traveling around the world, they may or may not have a business, but they're looking for purpose and meaning and so forth in their life. I've had just the coolest conversations with people. And one of my guidelines when I have those conversations is I remind myself as we're beginning to not tell the story. And the story is the same thing that I've said before 1,000 times. So I'm choosing in this moment to take a breath, be as present as possible, and as I'm talking to them and listening to them, what is the message? What are the words? What are the experiences that perk up from inside of me right now? And that's been a part of the journey. And then the last thing I'll say here, because it's on the top of my mind, I've met a lot of people that left a work, left a job, left a city, partners, husband, wife took off to create a life that they wanted, and then they got confused and they got lost. I had a woman I met in a hostel in Tulum, and we knew each other for a very short time, and she shared with me briefly that she and her partner left Brazil, or Argentina, I think, Brazil, and they wanted the freedom and flexibility and to experience life, and now we're here in Tulum, and we're just completely lost. We've lost our way. And listening to her, I just asked her what she was clear about, and she didn't know what that was. So I just gave the words back to her that she'd given to me in the first place about what motivated the choice in the first place. And she started crying and came around the counter and gave me a hug. And so that's the kind of conversation and interaction that I love the most. And when I'm traveling, that happens sometimes 6, 7, 8 times a day. And, just to finish that thought, confusion is fed by focusing on what you're unclear about or what you're confused about. And while you're doing that, you cannot pay attention to what you are clear about. So the more you're clear about what you're clear about, the clearer you are. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Those are some of the things that are going through my mind right now. This is my first recording for this new aspect of my blog. And I just wanted to sit down and kind of throw together a background and an idea. If that piques your attention and there's anything particular you're interested in, let me know. Thanks for traveling along. Ciao.